Welcome back, comedy lovers, to another exciting episode. Today we have a special treat as we dive into the fascinating journey of one of the most beloved comedians in the industry, none other than Ron Tater Salad White. Ron White gained worldwide fame as the cigar-smoking funny man from the blue-collar comedy phenomenon. Always sporting a cigar in hand and a shot of tequila nearby, this Texas native would captivate audiences, throwing out hilarious tales of drunken escapades.
When he got through with the procedure, you could still tell which tooth he worked on because it was a different color. My teeth looked like Indian corn.
Today, he is the proud owner of a gold record, 2 Grammy nominations, and 3 of the top 10 rated 1-hour TV specials in Comedy Central history. But did you know that his success story did not happen overnight? And that for a very long time, Ron White lived the life of a struggling comedian, bouncing around to comedy clubs and driving to gigs in his beat-up Nissan truck. So sit back and join us as we explore the hilarious and inspiring rise of Ron White. Before we begin, hit that thumbs up icon to show us some support, and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. Now the curtain's rising, so come on and let's go find out.
What happened?
Drugs and dyslexia. Ron White was born in Fritch, Texas on December 18, 1956. Early on in his childhood, he developed a natural sense of humor. Whenever there was some tension in the family or in the classroom, a young Ron White with a cigar, no, probably not with a cigar yet, would throw in some witty jokes and diffuse the situation. At this point, the beloved comedian didn't really know he was funny, but everyone around him did, so he played along. You can say the show life chose him before he chose the show life. But growing up, White faced numerous challenges that tested his determination and perseverance. He was not exactly a star student and struggled academically throughout his life. He battled with ADHD and dyslexia, conditions that weren't really well known during that time. So instead of receiving the support he needed, White was often dismissed as profoundly lazy and dumb. The boy was once kicked out of the debate club after saying some swear words to another child, and he was expelled from high school in the 11th grade. Well, those issues just got worse as his problems with drugs intensified. So he looked himself in the mirror and made a tough choice. He ended up joining the Navy, a last resort for a lot of kids wanting to desperately clean themselves up. And this is where he got the nickname Tater Salad. One night, White was really drunk and he started asking around for his favorite food, potato salad. And so his fellow sailors did what they knew best, teased him about it. But White's biggest problem was not alcohol. During his time in the Navy, he began doing drugs even more, harder and harder drugs, including hallucinogens and opiates. He ended up leaving the service at the Navy's insistence and enrolled in a Houston drug abuse program. Thankfully, that helped, and once clean, White became a counsel for the program. And within a short period of time, he was the primary speaker in the area. During his motivational speeches, he would often use excessive humor to such a point that one of the people in the program once told him that, quote, "We don't think drug addiction should be this funny." Soon he needed to move on and he was done counseling, which brought upon financial struggles for years because he had no high school diploma, let alone a college education. He was also reunited with pot and had never been really estranged from alcohol. So a lot of his mid-20s was a roller coaster. He owned a beat-up Nissan truck, which he would often use to travel across the country from comedy gig to comedy gig. But the young man was not getting booked very often, so he had to take on a series of small jobs. At one point, White ended up selling windows in Arlington, and this is where his luck began to change. Time to make friends. At age 29, at one of his friends' insistence, White went to an open mic night for the very first time, trying his hand at standing up at an Arlington comedy club. And in that audience that night, can you believe none other than a young Jeff Foxworthy? who was well recognized at this point in the comedy industry, even at that time. And when White left the stage, Foxworthy took him aside and gave him some tips on the proper positioning of punchlines, even how to better structure his entire sets. The next day, the two played golf together in Fort Worth. And soon after, Ron White began performing as an opening act for Jeff Foxworthy. And we have an entire Jeff Foxworthy video if you want to watch his rise to fame too. Now back to Ron. This Texas native was still struggling financially. He ended up moving to Mexico, where he bought a pottery factory. But he would travel back to the US to perform on Foxworthy's shows. However, a full-time comedy career wasn't exactly on the horizon, or so he thought. But in 2006, Jeff Foxworthy came up with the Blue Collar Comedy Tour idea, and he wanted to bring White on board. Allegedly, Ron White was actually reluctant to the proposal at the beginning, but he gave in, probably after finding out how much money he could make. He decided to join the comedy troupe, alongside Jeff Foxworthy, Bill Engvall, and Larry the Cable Guy. And yup, we have a Larry the Cable Guy video too. The big time. Ron White ended up moving back to the United States to work full-time as a comedian. Of course, the Blue Collar Comedy Tour skyrocketed his career. Now he was in the national spotlight, performing in massive theaters across the country. His material was primarily focused on personal experiences, retold in his smoking, drinking, southern United States persona.
Hell, I'll just pee on myself. Everybody got mad at me. Of course, I was in a canoe.
Next, he wrote an award-winning book, I Had the Right to Remain Silent, but I Didn't Have the Ability. And in 2003, White released his first CD, Drunken, which was certified gold by the Recording Industry Association of America. The guy even made an appearance on the hit TV show Sex and the City. And get this, Texas officials even declared April 27, 2009 as the official Ron White Day in the state of Texas. But the wild side and bad boy streak of the beloved comedian had stayed with him his entire career, and it often brought up a ton of criticism. He faced backlash for the references he made to drug and alcohol use, of course with extensive profanity. And even on tour, Ron White was arrested a couple of times for marijuana possession. Once in Vero Beach in 2008, and another time in 2010 in Vail, Colorado. Then in 2013, he had to go to rehab for alcohol abuse, taking a short break from comedy. But in spite of the occasional controversy and setback during his career, Ron White has managed to stay active in stand-up comedy and kept on taking acting roles too. He did admit that his material may not be the most appropriate, and he's apologized throughout the time for any potential offenses that he may have caused. In 2011, Ron White passed on the opportunity to join the Blue Collar Comedy reunion because he thought he was too rowdy compared to the rest of the troupe. His fan base, however, remained strong. It's now kinda hard to believe that less than 2 decades ago, Ron White was a struggling comedian with little cash on his hands and a pottery factory in Mexico. Thanks to the Blue Collar Comedy Tour, he went to perform in sold-out theaters and arenas across the country. Headlining as a comedian, how can it get better than that? His award-winning book appeared on the New York Times bestseller list, and he entertained fans with his childhood stories about growing up in the middle of Texas oil. White's hard work really paid off, and he received 2 Grammy nominations for Best Comedy Album, one in 2007 and another in 2014. So it seems like things were going good. Recent struggles. In recent years, he was again struggling financially. In 2019, he was ordered to pay his latest ex-wife, Margot Ray, an allowance of $25,000 a month. Then the shutdown happened, and White could not book any gigs, so he made no income. As such, he asked the court to remove the spousal support. He provided a breakdown of his income and expenses, revealing that his net income at the time was just over $300,000, with expenses totaling more than $433,000. After the shutdown ended, White began touring around the country again, began to rebuild his income. Now he's reputed to be an 8-figure man, with a net worth of more than $40 million. Truly a testament to the idea that individuals can bounce back from difficulties, achieving long-term success if you only challenge yourself. In 2021, Ron White stopped drinking alcohol after he consulted a hypnotherapist, while also using ayahuasca once. He's not that much of a family man and has 3 divorces on the record, but he continues to enjoy his life and is now retired in Austin, Texas, where he spends time with his new friend and popular podcaster Joe Rogan. In his spare time, Ron White is an avid fisherman, either out on the water or on the green, as he likes to play golf too. At the end of 2022, Golf Pass partnered with White to show one day into the life of the Texas native comedian and his golf friends. Boy, would I like to play around with Ron White one day. So Ron, if you're listening, please call us up. Alright, now we need to hear from you all. Who out there has ever seen Ron White perform live? Who is your personal favorite comedian of the 4 blue-collar funny men? And who is your all-time favorite stand-up comedian? Get in the comments and tell us your thoughts. Before you head to the exits, please smash that thumbs up icon if you enjoyed our deep dive. Subscribe to our channel and come back often so we can keep telling you
What